like to say hello to everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Tonight, going to have a bit of a sharing. I have recently been in India for a 6-week period of time. And I was, how do I make a long story short? Many years ago, when I was going to India, infrequently, but repeatedly, I was very interested in meditating under the Bodhi tree. I found that when the mind did become peaceful at the sight of the Buddha's enlightenment, it became more peaceful than back in the monasteries that I lived in Thailand in general. And so I developed an interest in going back and exploring that. Why is it that when I meditate at the Bodhi tree, at the Mahabodhi temple, Chedi, the mind becomes more peaceful? So I went back after my 10th rainy season retreat, and I spent 6 weeks, and I developed a capacity to sit for about 6 hours there. More than 6 hours I found very difficult. There's a lot of noise, there's a lot of dust, there's a lot of sensory impingement. But when the mind was peaceful, it was very peaceful. So I kept going back, and I realized what happened was someone invited me on a pilgrimage, and then I decided to lead a pilgrimage. My students in Melbourne and Malaysia asked me to please lead a pilgrimage, traditional pilgrimage to the 4 holy sites. And so I would either go before the group or stay on after the group, since I was in India anyway. And I realized at one point that I was getting close to having sat 1,000 hours under the Bodhi tree. And I was kind of struggling as a new abbot a little bit. Most new abbots struggle because you have to learn many new skills on your feet in public, and it's not easy. So it was nice to have a break. And I realized that if I could sit those 1,000 hours, it would be good for my confidence. It would be something that I would feel glad to have done as an offering to Lord Buddha in gratitude. And so what happens is when I did finish that 1,000 hours, I was so elated and joyful and happy that in a moment of madness, I said, okay, I'm going to do 2,000 hours more meditation under the Bodhi tree in India. 1,000 for the Buddha, 1,000 for the Dhamma, 1,000 for the Sangha. Now, what happened was when I got to 2,000 hours, there was definitely a feeling of, oh, 2,000 really would have been enough. This is getting harder. I'm getting older. Why did I make that vow? And then my good friend Ajahn Yaniko, I invited him to join me. Would you mind joining me for the last 1,000 hours to be my buddy? And so people who've been to Bodhgaya will understand that clocking up 1,000 hours there I don't want to praise myself, but I want to be honest about the fact that it's not easy. It's one does have to work with a lot of impingement. And getting back there and somehow clocking up 3,000 hours, it did require particular focus and a lot of effort, and I'm very glad to have done it. Then I thought, okay, that's it, 3,000 hours, that's it. And I think it was 3 years ago, I was going to have a sabbatical. Another friend, Ajahn Anando, offered to take care of the monastery for 6 months, Anandagiri, where I'm the abbot. And I was originally going to go to the Swiss Vihara and have a nice quiet time in the mountains. And it kind of occurred to me that I don't want to be in the quiet Swiss mountains. I want to go back to Bodhgaya. So it was like, I think practicing in Bodhgaya had become, by that stage, really a part of my life and a part of my practice. And so I decided to go back to Bodhgaya, and then I got 600 hours so I decided to do another 1,000 hours, to do 4,000 hours. And I got 600 hours into that, and the COVID phenomenon occurred, and I had to rush back to Thailand within a few hours because the requirements to be allowed back into Thailand one was going to need insurance that covered COVID in particular, a letter from the embassy to say that you didn't have it, all these ridiculous things that would have been very difficult to accomplish, particularly in India. So we rushed back and we made it back 6 hours before the gates closed, as it were. And so, yeah, 2.5 years went by and I still had 400 hours to go. So back in April, even though it was the hot season, I remember I said to Ajahn Sunando and Ajahn Nando here in the monastery, I said, if India drops its quarantine requirements in March, I'll go in March. But if they drop it in April, I won't go in April. It's just too hot. As it happened, they dropped their requirements in April. And I'm like, you know what? I just want to go. I miss it. I really miss Bodhgaya. So I went back in April. And according to my original plan in my sabbatical, I was going to stay all throughout April. So practicing in Bodhgaya in the hot season is 42, sometimes 44 degrees Celsius. And if in May, it gets up to 50. So, yeah, we'd never really experienced anything like it. I would get out of the plane and expecting to be covered in sweat, but it's a very low humidity. It feels a bit like walking into an oven. You can feel the heat pressing into your inner ear. It's like, what is that? And but it was 26 degrees in the morning at dawn, and it goes up 2 degrees an hour. And I managed to do 7.5 hours a day for 4 weeks back in April. So I still had, I managed to do 185. Yeah. And then I needed to do 215 on this recent occasion to conclude my 4,000 hours. And I was able to do it. So I share accumulated merits with all those karmically connected to me. Now, the point about making these vows, it's not to be impressive. It's not actually to clock up the numbers. It's a skillful means, but I think we're all prone to a little bit of laziness. And so when you make a vow like that, you can't be lazy. It's like, well, I suppose if you were thinking, okay, I'll do that within this lifetime, there'd be no particular pressing. But for me, the way my mind works, if I've made a vow in the place where Lord Buddha got enlightened, I want to tick it off as quickly as possible. That's just how it affects my mind. So it kind of weighs on you, and you want to do as much as possible. So those 3 times that I went with Ajahn Yaniko, we sat for 400 hours in 6 weeks. You have to do 10 hours a day, and I think there's like a possibility for 2 sick days. I did that 3 times. The time before that, I think I did 300 hours in 30 days. So I was really, really practicing with doing 10 hours a day. And I did find it beneficial, because it just makes you work very hard. It just makes you have to use every spiritual resource that you have. And when you feel exhausted, not giving up. When you feel you can't go further, going further. Just it has some good effects on mindfulness when you don't give in to, basically it's the hindrances, right? You feel like you can't because there's aversion issues. You feel like you can't because there's sloth and torpor issues. You're tired, you're irritated, you want to rest, you want to sleep, you want a holiday. And when you don't give in to it, it's very interesting the way in cultivating samadhi, you never quite know before the mind becomes very peaceful that it was about to. At least that's my experience. I think people who are adept at jhana samadhi, the absorptions, it's probably a different story. So for myself, someone who experiences some samadhi on occasion, it's like I can have the experience of being really fed up or really tired and really not wanting to do this any longer. And then a few moments later, this kind of peacefulness just kind of occurs. And that sense of being somebody who's struggling with hindrances isn't there, and peacefulness is the object. And the mind can stay in that state where it's normally for me, if it's about 40 minutes, when the mind is kind of if that occurs, when the mind is in a kind of an imperturbably peaceful state. And it's a very interesting thing to experience under the Bodhi tree with hundreds and hundreds of people filing by and a lot of noise, that the mind is unshakably peaceful for a period of time. And then you come out of that experience and the mind is energized and there's no irritation, and you're walking back to the guest house and you feel like you're floating because the rapture and the tranquility continues, but sometimes for hours. But you never know before the mind becomes peaceful when exactly it's going to become peaceful. But one of the things I do know from my own experience is that putting forth a lot of effort is a large part of what makes it possible. Now, another thing that makes putting forth a lot of effort possible is the metta practice. One of the things I really learned I needed to do to get from 6 hours many years ago up to 8 hours, from 8.5 to 10 hours, was I needed to have a lot of metta. So when I'm suffering as a conventional being, I had to have metta for myself. And then when I got over that sense of being a being who was suffering, then I could radiate the metta outwards, parents, teachers, friends, neutral beings, all beings. And that metta practice could lead into quite peaceful states. Different kind of samadhi, like a very spacious, open, happy, contented space, sometimes for hours. So I really had to cultivate the metta practice, and I really had to cultivate the mudita practice, because the mind can fall into fault finding, and that's very miserable. You know, there are ill-behaved people there. There are very beautifully behaved people, but there are also poorly behaved people. And the mind can easily get into long spiels about the way the Mahabodhi Temple Committee should rearrange the rules and get people that enforce the rules, and the way that they should redesign the chedi, and the way that someone should tell people whose speakers are too loud that their speakers are too loud, and someone should tell people who are talking right next to the sign that says silence that they shouldn't be talking, blah, blah, blah. And the mind will endlessly come up with the way things should be and the way things shouldn't be. But when you're going to be there for 10 hours a day for 40 days, you have to find a way to make your mind be able to be at peace with the phenomenon. And one of the most helpful ways is mudita. It's just bringing to mind, like, for example, I really like the Sri Lankan chanting. I quite like the Indian chanting. I love the Chinese and the Korean chanting, and I also like the Thai chanting. And I dislike the Vietnamese and the Cambodian chanting equally, and the Bangladeshi chanting. So the thing is, you never know who's coming around the corner, and or whose puja is going to be louder. And and I learned that if I fall into liking that chanting, when a different chanting comes around the corner that I don't like, I'm going to be miserable. So there's a really good training in keeping the mind in the middle, trying not to fall into liking and disliking. But if you do, if to help the mind to stop falling into grumpiness, you focus on the fact that these people have faith, these people have made efforts to come, these people are demonstrating their faith, and it's perfectly possible to feel happy about their presence there under the Bodhi tree, even though you don't like the sound of their chanting. So, anyway, just giving a little bit of a background as to why I practice in Bodhgaya, how I practice in Bodhgaya, why I found it beneficial. So before I go to India, as a rule, I will go and pay respects to the Emerald Buddha at the Wat Phra the Temple of the Emerald Buddha in Wat Phra the Jewel Buddha in Bangkok. It's a royal monastery and a very revered Buddha statue, and I will ask for the blessings of the Devas of Thailand and the merit of the Buddha to protect me. Bodhgaya is a great place to visit, but I would like to come home. So please, please help me. So I went to meditate. This was, I'm very lucky because the king gave me a title 18 months ago. So I get to sit right in front. And these are the beautiful jasmine garlands that I offered to the Emerald Buddha. So we paid respects to Emerald Buddha. Here we are, we're going. This is my bhikkhu companions, Ajahn Buakau, Tan Weshen, Asoka, Diana, Michi Amy, in the Bangkok airport, Suvarnabhumi airport. We're about to fly. Here we are, we've landed in Bodhgaya. The guest house operator and my godson have arranged flowers to greet us. That's Adil, your friendly guest house manager. And, So this is the view from my room in the guest house, Mumtaz Guest House. It's run by a Muslim family and good friends of mine. So I had to stick my head out the window to take that picture. So, but you can get a sense for how close it is. That lawn in the front of the picture is what they call the Kala Chakra grounds. It's the place where the Dalai Lama teaches when he comes. And it's approximately a 5-minute walk from the guest house to the entrance of the Mahabodhi temple. Because there was a Pali recitation, a Tripitaka recitation ceremony, the 18th annual Tripitaka recitation ceremony, which was sponsored by the Vietnamese, there was some pretty fabulous flower arrangements. So you can see here, dragons, lotuses, and the Mahabodhi temple. Chedi is behind there. Here we have more flowers. It's quite magical, actually, coming down these steps and through these beautiful flowers. This is the Buddha statue, which is inside the Chedi. You can see it in this picture, down there inside the Vihara. This Buddha statue is called Prabuddha Metta, and it's over 1,000 years old. It's made from Bihar black stone. It's been painted with gold paint, but it's a very much revered, much loved Buddha. And, it's so nice when you come down in the mornings and it's illuminated. You feel like you can say, "Good morning, Buddha, coming to work." And he smiles at you. Good boy, good boy, good bhikkhu. So this is my favorite place to meditate. It's on the southern side, facing north. And the Bodhi tree, I'm not sure if you can see, but the Bodhi tree there's a little bit of the Bodhi tree that wraps around the corner of the Chedi. So you're technically sitting under the Bodhi tree. The reason I like to sit there is probably the stillest place around the Chedi, because you have immediately around that Chedi in the inner area, because you have the wall of the Chedi before you. At least that front part isn't seething phenomenon. Yeah, you can see the Bodhi tree above there. And in my experience, not everyone has the same experience, but in my experience, my mind will become more peaceful if I am under the Bodhi tree than if I am not. Other people find that if they're further away from the hubbub, their mind becomes peaceful. I find under the Bodhi tree is peaceful for me. So that's looking up from my favorite seat. And, you can see Tracy smiling. Tracy has happy memories. Several people who've joined the Zoom joined me, and other people have been on pilgrimage to the same place, a lot of smiling faces. So I was invited to give a talk at the Tripitaka recitation ceremony. This is the 4th time I was invited to contribute. It's quite an honor having the opportunity to talk on Buddha Dhamma at the place where Lord Buddha realized enlightenment. It's also I like creative challenges. I'm 26 years into this being a monk business. It's nice to have a challenge. So you have many challenges there. You have other groups. You have dogs fighting. You have the Muslim call to prayer. You have a flame in your throat because you're catching a cold. You have all sorts of phenomena. But about 3,000 people were attending the chanting, and only about 100 came to the Dhamma talk at night. That is largely because most of the participants are not native English-speaking people, but they did live stream it, and hundreds of people were watching on live stream, and then they upload it later as well, so people can listen to the talks that you give at their website, on YouTube, etc. So here you can see just how big the Bodhi tree is. Part of the reason it's so big is there's these beautiful posts. They put these posts up supporting the branches, so that naturally, if the Bodhi tree was that large, it would break off when the branches got that big. But the Bodhi tree at the Mahabodhi temple is wider than it is tall. It's probably about 20 meters tall and 30 meters wide. There were some lovely nuns, Indian nuns, ethnically Buddhist nuns from Tripura, which is a state very close to Bangladesh. It was nice to encourage Indians in India. I mean, my teacher Ajahn Nun has been encouraging me a little bit to meet a few more Indians and contribute a little bit. You know, having sat 4,000 hours now under the Bodhi tree, it might be appropriate to encourage some Indians sometimes. So, but you have to be a bit careful. You couldn't really maintain that focus if you know too many people. So there's a reason I'm only just starting to teach in India. I had to maintain some anonymity and my focus. Normally I would be sitting facing the chedi with my hat pulled over my eyes, earplugs in my ears, not trying to be anybody, not trying to meet anybody. But it was nice to encourage them. Recently, they've redone the lighting in the Mahabodhi Chedi. It's very beautiful at night time. So yes, some of my students, this lady is Wang Mo Dixie. This is her husband, Richard Dixie. She's a Tibetan father, and she organizes. She established a charity that organizes the Tripitaka recitation ceremonies. She's been doing it for 18 occasions now. A lady with incredible energy and remarkable patience and focus. So some of my students in the local area, Pitsanalok, decided to sponsor 500 of the 3,000 monks lunch. So I went to offer some food on their behalf. And then I went to visit the nuns at their small nunnery, the sweet nuns from Tipura. And their head nuns, I don't know if you can see my arrow, their head nuns are actually Burmese, and they are their teachers. They're making an effort to bring back Buddhism to India and to bring back nuns community as well. They're very sweet. They offered us a lovely meal. So we offered flowers. One of the things you can do when you're in Bodhgaya is you can make some rather grand pujas. And these were on behalf of Chai Ek and one of his teachers and his friends. And I asked my monk friends to help and my lay students to help in the offering. So those rose petals and what do you call them, marigolds that have been kind of pulled apart, so it's just the petals, thousands of them, they get sprinkled around the base of the Bodhi tree as an offering. And you can dedicate these garlands get tied together, and then they get strung around the temple compound. So I didn't join in the offering. I had to click off my hours, so I delegated. But you can see in the background there are these flowers when they're all strung up everywhere. So very beautiful. After 3 weeks, I realized I was on track for finishing my goal, and I had 3 weeks to go. I had COVID in the very first week, followed by a sinus infection. And an interesting thing happens that people come and give money to the people meditating under the Bodhi tree because they want to make merit. And in my tradition, we can't receive personal funds and we can't touch money. So you just kind of flick it off your leg, and one of your stewards picks it up and deals with it. But something happened is that people kept coming around and giving 20 rupee notes. And there's a picture on the 20 rupee note of Ellora Caves. And Ellora Caves, Ajanta and Ellora Caves in southwestern India are these, it's a monastery basically carved into a cliff face. It's quite an amazing thing actually, and I've been there twice, but I've never felt that I'd spent enough time there to really remember it and study it. And so I had this thought after being sick twice and realizing that the air was going to get dustier, the population was going to get more dense, and the temperature was going to get colder. And I suddenly had the thought, hey, we could go on a side trip, head down south, fly south for the winter. And so we did. We went down to Ajanta and Ellora Caves. I had to look at the resources, and we could do it. But that's the next slideshow. We did take some very nice pictures. So we flew from Gaya to Delhi, and from Delhi to another city called Aurangabad, and we spent 6 days down there. And walking in the sun and walking up and down stairs and breathing fresher air, we'd all been sick. And in getting that cleaner air and some sunshine and some exercise, we all came back feeling healthy again for the last few weeks. So that's the Mumbai airport. It's quite a phenomenon. It's actually one of the most beautiful airports I've ever been in, I think, possibly the most beautiful. And it's kind of shocking because you come from a crowded, noisy, dusty place that's dirty. And you step out into this airport, which is spacious and bright and light and clean and quiet. You know, it's a nice change. And the funky carpet. There's not many places in the world, I thought this was noteworthy of a photo, there's not many places in the world where you have paisley carpet. Anyway, there it is, Delhi domestic airport. Okay, came back. This time, I had to offer the flowers on behalf of my students. So this is what I'm doing. You see all those flowers there? Some of you joined in the offering. I'm offering them on your behalf. From the very gate of the temple, you see they're strung over the little chetties, and you can see above my head there, there's all of these on the gateway, there's more garlands. All along the outer railing. It's about 200,000 marigolds, 5,000 garlands of flowers. I offered on your behalf. I said, may you all speed towards Nibbana due to the power of these offerings. Yeah, and this is the railing immediately around the Bodhi tree. So it's a pretty cool system. Basically, you just need to manifest the funds, and then the local flower guy has his team, and they know how I like them by now. They know that I like alternating red and yellow, and then orange. You know, they know how I like it, and they do a very beautiful job. There's a team of workers that come and tie all these garlands together and drape them elegantly. And it's very beautiful. And then you see them when you come back after lunch, and you come back the next day, the flowers are up for 3 or 4 days, and you feel great joy. And a lot of other people who see the flowers feel great joy too. JC joined us by this stage. Aparajita, Joe and Ern all joined in the offering. So now the Dalai Lama is coming. Very soon, the Dalai Lama is coming to Bodhgaya. He's going to be giving these teachings towards the end of the year. And the Tibetan monks are coming and painting the town red, as it were. There are so many of them. And the atmosphere really changes. So I was invited to attend here he is, 87 years old now, His Holiness. I was invited to attend a seminar with the Dalai Lama, and be a speaker at that seminar. Accepting the invitation to be a speaker meant that I got a front row seat, and I sneakily took this picture, and sorry, I've tapped down my screen accidentally. So I sneakily took this picture from my seat. And you can see how close I was to His Holiness, about 5 meters. And the other monks in front of me, this is the head of the Gelugpa tradition, this is the head of the Shakya tradition. And over there, you have the 2 of the Sangharajas from Sri Lanka, actually 4 of the Sangharajas from different Nikayas in Sri Lanka. So he gave a lovely introduction, something that's been important to His Holiness. I've heard him say that he's had many interfaith dialogues during his life, but one of the regrets he has is that he hasn't had many inter-Buddhist lineage dialogues, and he would like to be able to accomplish that. And so it was about 10 years ago that I heard His Holiness say that, and I thought, well, since it's important to His Holiness, and His Holiness is one of my teachers, since I've been invited, I should rise to the occasion. And so I did. photo opportunity afterwards. And then we began our discussions. Now, it's very interesting, I have to tell you, I was surrounded by geshes. These days it takes 20 years to get a geshe degree in the Gelugpa, abbots, directors of centers, Thai monks with degrees. And I was, I would say, out of my comfort zone, and even, I would say, extremely uncomfortable. Because I am, a large part of our training as forest monks is to know a thought and let it go, know a thought and let it go. And we don't, traditionally, we don't cultivate. Some monks do, Ajahn Jeff, and some monks are gifted and they have a kind of a studious bent. For myself, I'm more interested in emptiness, peacefulness, and not accumulating more sanya. But that also has its place in a dialogue between the traditions. The forest monks have their role to play. And so I rose to the occasion, I did my best, and it went okay. I was happy to contribute to something that was important to the Dalai Lama. One of the benefits of rising to the occasion, this is interesting, I was speaking as a Thai citizen, by the way. I was a representative of Thailand. And it was 15 Tibetan monks, 15 Sri Lankan monks, and 15 Thai monks attending a 5-year exchange program. Well, there'll be various activities, and I was invited to be on the advisory board as a Thai monk. So that was an interesting experience. And I was mindful, and it was kind of baffling in a way. It's like sitting in this room, and the Dalai Lama is 5 meters away, the head of the Shakya lineages is 4 meters away, the head of the Gelugpa tradition is 3 meters away, 4 of the Sri Lankan Sangha Rajas are 10 meters away, and on the other side of the room there's like a whole rows and rows of reincarnated lamas. And sometimes in my life I scratch my head and I'm just like, how did I end up here in this room, in the front row? It's weird. And I think I know the answer. Probably been a Sri Lankan monk and a Tibetan monk and a Thai monk and an Indian monk in past lives. So that's how you end up in a room like that. Or perhaps I was in, they used to have these great Sangha gatherings in ancient India, what do they call them? The great councils, where all the monks would come together and talk about issues and think of ways to present teachings, overcome challenges, etc. So I may have been involved in something like that in the past. Listening to learned elder. I asked my dear students who were a cheering squad down the back of the room. I said, "How uncomfortable did I look?" They said, "You look pretty chill, Ajahn. You look pretty chill." Okay, good. And on the inside, I was uncomfortable. But there were fringe benefits to being willing to. Yes, after the conference, I was happy to go back to my seat, pull my hat over my head, stick my earplugs in my ear, face the wall, and not be anybody again. But one of the benefits of happy birthday, this man, this is our Tibetan restaurant where we have lunch. One of the benefits of, okay, I'm showing you how much the crowd has grown in Bodhgaya since the Dalai Lama has arrived in town. This is the queue to enter the Chedi. That's from the picture from the front, and that's the picture from behind. On a normal day, it would take 5 to 10 minutes to get through.
Hi, Ajahn. Sorry to interrupt. I think we are still seeing the picture of Wat Pa when you are in front of.
Okay, I need to share. I need to share again. Okay, I need to share. Is it? Yep.
Yeah.
Which one? This one, is it? Okay. So I'm getting you to up to speed.
Yeah. Now I can.
You can see these. Yep.
Yeah.
That's me, chin wagging.
Yeah.
It was very nice to see. Look at this picture. It's very nice to see a Tibetan monk and Lumpo Man, right? Tibetan Geshe and Lumpo Sao, and this Thai art. It's nice to see. Nice change. Arahants. Flying the banner of the Arahants there. Yes, so I was showing you the size of the line going into the Mahabodhi temple. and behind. So normally it would take 5 to 10 minutes to get through. During this time, it was taking 35, 45, 55 minutes just to get through the gates, through the X-ray screening. This is the crowd under the tents who are waiting to listen to His Holiness. Most of them are probably Indians from the Himalayan regions, but there were people from 65 countries. About 30,000 people attended. You can see, that's a big crowd. From behind, 3 of these very large tents. Before I talk about this occasion, I want to talk about another occasion. We were in the Mahabodhi temple when His Holiness came to visit the Bodhi tree and pay his respects. Now, for those of you who have been there are many, many groups and everyone's doing their thing. Tibetans are doing their bows and Thais are doing their chanting and groups are coming through and tour guides, and it's quite, I wouldn't say chaotic, but it's complex, and somehow it manages to, we all manage to tub along. So His Holiness comes into the Mahabodhi temple, and literally everybody is on their knees and in silent reverence. So that includes all of the Theravadan monks, includes some of the fake monks, the fake guides, everybody. And so for myself, I really have faith that His Holiness the Dalai Lama is a high-level bodhisattva, because I've just never seen that before. And as you know, I've spent 4,000 hours meditating there, but if you include chanting, going to the toilet, tour groups, I probably spent 5,000 hours there. So I spent 5,000 hours in this place. And I've only seen people all fall to the ground silently in reverence and be quiet and be respectful when the Dalai Lama comes. So he doesn't come down these steps waving a stick. He's not menacing. He's not threatening. He's smiling and quiet. And everybody just wants to admire the radiance and listen to the silence and hope that he smiles at them. It's really quite extraordinary. And I've seen this twice now. And when he went inside the vihara and did his chanting, everybody just sat peacefully and quietly outside until it was over. Quite amazing. The other thing that's amazing is you see all these people on the screen share, thousands and thousands of people, tens of thousands of people. When they're queuing up outside, they literally need to get the Indian police and soldiers to force them to line up in queues and not be too much of rabble-rousing. But when they're coming to listen to the Dalai Lama, they all sit down quietly. And it's quite a phenomenon. Basically, this is His Holiness when he came onto the stages. When I looked out from my seat, so I was saying, one of the perks of being willing to chat on the seminar was that they gave me a seat on the stage. But when I turned my head right, I could see these maybe 20,000 of the 30,000 people. I could see their heads. It's literally like a rock and roll concert, except that everybody's sitting silently, waiting to listen to the venerable monk speak. And you just don't see this anywhere else. This is why I personally have faith that he's enormous accumulated merits, because although he has a small and frail body, there's something about the presence of the extraordinary presence of his mind that those 30,000 people want to hear every word, and they all sit quietly and give ear. It's really amazing. So the Thai monks did their chanting. I was sitting a little off to the side. I decided not to join them. I wanted to meditate in the presence of the Dalai Lama. So at the beginning, they're making offerings for auspiciousness. Here I am. Just in case you didn't see me, I'm here. So I was 8 meters away from the Dalai Lama for 2.5 hours for 2 days. There I am over there. And I loved my seat, and I got just what I wanted. I didn't want to meet him. I didn't want to touch him. I didn't want to make offerings. I wanted to meditate close to him and receive blessings. That's what I really wanted. And happily I had that occasion. So this is the view from the guest house. So 3 days of teachings, back to the Bodhi tree, got a few more hours to clock away. My favorite seat from behind. And I completed the 4,000th hour. So there we have it. I dedicated merit to my parents, my teachers, my students, and I felt many things. I felt grateful to have had the opportunity. I felt relieved to not have the vow hanging over my head anymore. I made a particular effort not to do 1 more minute more than 4,000 hours, because I have a terrible feeling I might vow to do another 1,000 at some point, and to do. And if I did 1 hour and I decided to do 5,000, I have this feeling of, oh, I've still got 999 to do. I don't want that feeling. I want to have a feeling that I completed 4,000. I want to have that feeling for a while. So allow me that. And so that's the Mahabodhi by evening. So we decided we had Wei Shen, Venerable Wei Shen had made a vow to do 300 hours and he'd finished, and we had 1 day to spare. So on New Year's Day, we went to Rajgir. JC, was it New Year's Day or was it the 2nd of January? I can't remember now.
New Year's Day.
Okay, I had no idea that New Year's Day was going to be, I had no idea that Vulture's Peak Mountain was the tourist spot for Indians on their public holidays. So when we got there, was it thousands? I think there were thousands streaming through, and there was a lot of noise. And something quite wonderful happened when we went to pay respects in what's known as Mahamoggallana Cave, where Mahamoggallana spent 1 rainy season retreat, and had a little meditation in there. But we noticed people walking up behind that cave. So normally you would go up to what's called Sariputta cave and then bend around and come up to where the Buddha's kuti site is. On this occasion, we noticed Tibetan monks going up a very steep slope behind the Mahamoggallana cave. So I said, I just had a feeling, let's go up there, because the main thoroughfare was extremely busy. And it turns out that there's this little flat plateau, which is about 4 meters wide and 10 meters long, which is above the Mahamoggallana cave and below the Buddha's kuti, with hardly any people walking through. It's quite steep to get up there. So we had a nice meditation. We actually managed to have a nice meditation and up on the mountain. And when we got to the site of the Buddha's kuti, it wasn't actually as bad as I thought, because there's another big stupa on another hill, the Santi stupa, built by a Japanese sect, and most of the Indian tourists were going up there. We could hear them yelling, but most of them weren't coming up to this particular site. And we got to listen to the local Himalayan Indians from Himachal Pradesh do some lovely pujas, and it was really nice. And it's very interesting. I think Vulture's Peak is my 2nd favorite place to meditate after the Bodhi tree. There really is somehow it just feels close to heaven, and contemplating emptiness of sky is very, very pleasant there. After that, Gautam, my godson, I've been helping support Gautam since he was 12. Now he's married with 2 children. He came to visit. Last day he had to pop in and had to meet family. Gautam's wife and 2 children. Aparajita, Indian based in Dubai, who joined us. Happy New Year cake from the guest house manager. And this was just to say goodbye. I feel very grateful. I feel very content at this stage that I have fulfilled the 4,000 hours vow.